Hi everyone, welcome to today's episode of Aesthetics and Wellness by Dr Yusra. On our episode today, we have started a new series called Lessons from Leaders, and we are bringing to you the best of the best who have started businesses from scratch and who have lots of life lessons to offer you. Today I have Ste McGrath, founder and owner of £1,000,000 business, online coach to the health and wellness industry. I hope you enjoy. So on today's episode, I have Ste McGrath, who is owner and founder of the UK's fastest growing online coaching business for health and wellness experts, fitness professionals. Tell me a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey.
Where do you want me to start? How far back do you want me to go?
At the beginning.
At the very beginning. Childhood was very education based. Like I was pushed quite hard to be quite academic when I was in school. I was quite academic in school, to be fair. Like I got really good GCSEs, like got good A-levels, got into a good university to do chemistry, hated it, couldn't stand it. So did a year of that. Went for like a cop-out subject, which was like sport and exercise science, which I found much more interesting because it was a lot more applied. And then got to the end of my sport and exercise science degree and realised that the career prospects for people with sport and exercise science degrees was pretty grim. Like the choice was be a personal trainer or go and work like unpaid at a sports team for a lot of years. And that's what a lot of people do. Like, you know, if you want to go work in football or rugby or something like that, it's very much like, okay, cool. Everyone wants to do that. So we can pay you literally nothing and you'll like take it and you'll like it. That wasn't really good enough for like kind of where I wanted to be in life. So
did you from a young age know, did you have this vision? Were you manifesting or did you have a vision of where you wanted to be from a success point of view? Or how did you went from chemistry to sports science as a cop-out, but you've made millions in this now.
True. Yeah. I think that was a later development, to be honest with you. Like when I did careers, you know, when you do like careers fair in school, I told them I wanted to be a marine biologist.
Okay.
Never really amounted to much, but I liked the water, I guess, at the time. I think what I did is I just made sure like I did try and excel in the stuff that I did. So I don't know like if it's still a thing now, but like in school I was in like gifted and talented, you know, where they like take you out on like I just thought it was cool because I got out of school on a Wednesday, but they like used to take you out and like do all these other activities at university and stuff. And we did a lot of like business and marketing stuff there. So that was kind of my first taste of it. We got to do like, you know, those enterprise days where you go and they do like a fake stock market and they give you all this stuff. But I wasn't very good at that. I ended up doing really well because I was picking up all the ones off the floor that everyone else was dropping, which actually made us score pretty well. But then as I kind of got into like university, finished university, my mum's like a teaching assistant in like a primary school, and like education is something that I'm quite big on. Like my business currently is still an education business, even though it's like an online coaching business. It's basically like online education. And I was quite big on that. So I trained they offered me like a conversion degree to be a physics teacher because they're really short. I don't know if they still are, but at the time, like male physics teachers under the age of 30 were like, you couldn't find them. So I did a conversion degree to do that and then started on something called Schools Direct, which is where like you start in a school. Like you don't do a lot of the university stuff. They kind of just throw you in the deep end and it's like,
wow, I really did not expect this part of your story. This is amazing. So
everyone says that.
You went from chemistry to thinking about marine biology to becoming a physics teacher. And now
I tried a lot of stuff. I had a lot of jobs when I was younger as well. I've done McDonald's, Tesco. My dad was like a ground work, you know, like doing paving and stuff like that. I did that for a summer. So like, I think for me, I was always searching for something that like I really enjoyed. Like my big thing is like, and the way I run my business now is like, if I look at the clock hoping for it to be over, I just don't do it. Yeah. I either like get rid of it out of my schedule or I hire someone else to do it because I just refuse to live life like that. Yeah. I think that was a couple of years of being on the milk aisle at Tesco, to be honest with you. It's quite a slow job on the best of days. So
it's
like
a good life motto.
Yeah, it was always a big thing for me. And like, even in teaching, like I enjoyed it a lot until I actually got like slightly more into my career and all the paperwork started. So at first, like they don't give you all of that because obviously they don't want to scare you off. So it's like, yeah, plan a couple of lessons, go in, teach the kids, have some fun. You're like, oh, this is really good. And then when like you start to like really qualify and you do your NQT year and it's like, right, now you've got to mark all of these books like every 2 days. And so I was like, oh my God, like this is rough. So like while I was doing my sport and exercise science, I'd always worked in like leisure. Like one of the longest jobs I ever did was a lifeguard in a leisure centre. And then because I was working in that, I started working in the gym. I was always, I got into the gym when I was like 15. So even when I was lifeguarding, I'd always have like people in the gym being like, oh, can you write me a program and stuff like that. So I got qualified as a personal trainer. And then even while I was teaching, I was still doing like a couple of PT sessions, like in the evenings and one in the morning. Basically, because you don't get paid a lot as a school teacher. It's like 24K a year. So it's hard to live off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you know this, but newly qualified doctors don't get paid much more than that. So they're on pittance, really. So yeah, no, I know.
Like usually like public services, isn't it? It's like, oh,
Rubbish.
you chose to do this, so we're going to pay you nothing.
Now walk through the mud. Yeah.
Anything that's like vocation based, they always, I think they like take advantage of people's good nature and be like, oh, you know, you're doing this because you love it, so we don't have to pay you that much, which struggles. So that started happening. And then when I was, can't remember exactly how old I was, but when I was like 23, 24, my dad got diagnosed with bowel cancer. So he had to have like part of his bowel removed. He had a colostomy bag and stuff. So we had to retire pretty much on the spot.
What was he doing before?
He was like a ground worker. He was, to be fair, by that point, he was like pricing up all the sites and then he had like lads doing the work. But even then, like obviously having a colostomy bag and stuff, he was obviously going through chemo and stuff. He was quite ill, so he couldn't work. He found it hard to like get back into it afterwards. And I just don't think he had the energy for it. So it was kind of on me to make sure that, you know, my mum and dad like could still keep the house and they had the bills paid and stuff. And teaching wasn't really going to do it. But I'd already started like doing PT on the side. I had like 3 or 4 clients. They paid well for maybe not now, but considering the work I was doing as a teacher for like 8 and 9 hours a day for the 3 hours I was PT, and I was like, this is easy money compared. And then it got to a point where I needed to make more money. School and like teaching was a slower career path. It was like, yeah, cool, like you do 3 years, then we'll give you a £2,000 pay rise. And I'm like, oh, sweet, cheers. And like even then, you know, if you want to earn 100 grand, you're looking at being a head teacher, which is a lot of time, paperwork, bureaucracy, stress, right face, right people. Like I just wasn't really prepared to take that long. So I just went in on the PT, and school got a bit funny about it as well, to be fair. Like it's a bit strange because they don't pay you a lot, but they still get a bit funny if you need to make money elsewhere. It's
the same in the NHS, unfortunately. I know a lot of doctors who are working in the NHS who, if they want to do private work on a weekend on their own time, they are actually punished for it. So yeah, it's the same. Civil service, unfortunately.
And like the writing was on the wall for me because I remember being in the staff room at school and like everyone just looked miserable. Like everyone that had been there for like more than like 5 years just looked like they were dead behind the eyes. And I was like, this isn't what I want to be in. And then some of the other younger teachers, like one was working in a corner shop on a weekend, and you're just like, how are we supposed to like actually give our best at work when we've got to do stuff like that? So I took the leap. My mum thought I was stupid. She wasn't happy about it at all, to be fair. She was like, you're throwing away all this education to be a person. You could have been a personal trainer like without going to uni and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I probably could, but we're here now. So then I started, being a full-time PT. That did well. Like, I think that was like my first real taste of like earning good money, which was a bit mad. Especially because people pay you in cash a lot as a PT. So like you'd do like 3-month blocks for like £1,000 or like 1,200 quid. And like some people would come in and they'd literally give you £1,200 in cash. And like to somebody that's never had £1,200 in cash before, like your wallet's like this. And you get a bit giddy with it. I spent a lot of money stupidly. I gave a lot of it to my mum and dad as well. So like, I would say like I was semi-successful as a PT. Like I earned good money, like probably really good money by what most people's imagine was, but like I never really had a lot to show for it. And then I had an accident in the gym.
So this is when this took away your ability to work as a PT.
Yeah, for sure I did. So I basically severed both patella tendons, but like.
How did that happen?
Farmer's walk. So if you don't know what a farmer's walk is, basically like, if you ever see like, and I'm not claiming to be anywhere near World's Strongest Man or anything like that, but when you see World's Strongest Man, and like they pick up the torpedo looking things and then they race down a track.
Yeah.
So like it's not a good idea to run when you do that. And I ran for some reason. Don't know what possessed me to do it.
Okay.
And then like kind of as I put my foot down, one went. And then as I put the other foot down, the other one went. So it was really weird because it wasn't a bilateral injury. It was two unilateral injuries at the same time, which apparently is really, really rare. But I'd already had a lot of damage in my knees from like playing sports for years. I played basketball, I played football, like a lot.
But this took you out. This is a devastating injury that meant you couldn't function or show up as a PT
well,
anymore.
the initial concern was that there was no tissue left to like, you can't graft a full patella tendon because like where are they going to take it from? So there was a lot of like back and forth about like what they were going to do. Like they flirted the idea of amputating the left one, especially because the left one was really bad.
Oh, wow.
So they ended up putting, it's a medical thing in it, so people might know. They ended up putting a Lars ligament in as my tendon, which isn't necessarily supposed to be a tendon. I don't think it's definitely supposed to be load bearing, but it seems to be holding up all right. But that, because of the amount of trauma in it, it was like, I think it was about 6 months before I could walk again. And then it was like 6 months of walking really strangely.
So how did you survive that?
I didn't, to be honest. I ended up like accruing a lot of debt, to be fair. Like, because I was a teacher, I'd always made good money. I had very good credit. So I managed to take out a couple of loans that tied me over, like still managed to keep stuff going at home. But by the end of the 12 months, I was like 15 grand down, which to a lot of people probably doesn't seem like a lot of money. To somebody that doesn't make a lot, was making zero at the time, I was like, oh, that's a really big number to get out of. But to my benefit, when I was PTing, I was always like social media like started to become a thing, and I'd always been posting on social media, like even when the other lads in the gym used to take the piss out of it, and like, you know, I'd like be filming in the gym and like you'd hear him say like wanker on the camera. I'm allowed to say that.
You said it now, it's fine.
It's in context. It wasn't like, but well, they used to say like stupid stuff while I was and you'd hear it on the camera after, you'd be like, oh, that whole video's ruined now. But I did it consistently. So
this is when? This is how long ago?
This was when I was 2019, probably back end of 2018.
So just before the lockdown?
Yeah, I think so. When was lockdown?
2020 March.
Yeah, so yes, it was about a year prior.
Okay.
So yeah, that sounds about right on the timeline. So you had this injury. You couldn't work. You couldn't walk for 6 months. Yeah. So you couldn't work. You had no money to your name, no income coming in. You took out loans, and you were in negative now. Now you're in debt with minus 15,000. And then how did you get yourself out of that? So
you pivoted.
Yeah. So like there was a guy that worked at the gym who's like he's like a top level bodybuilding coach now, but he was like, oh, I'm training people online. And I was like, oh, that sounds really good. Like, how? And I'd always like, I was quite tech savvy. Like I grew up with, I was in like the age where like phones became phones, like instead of like little Nokia things, like you started getting iPhones and stuff. So like I've kind of grown up with that kind of tech. So I was already kind of managing my clients on like online software, like outside of the sessions and stuff. And he was like, oh, I charge people like £100 a month. And I've got like, he had like 100 clients at the time. And I was like, for me, from like my background, I just couldn't fathom like somebody making £10,000 a month. I was like, that's insane. And in my head, I'm going like, if I do that for 2 months, I'm like going to pay off all my debt and I'll be £5 grand up. So I started looking into that. I scraped whatever money I had like left that I could get hold of. I think I borrowed a bit from my dad. I think I had like a Wonga loan, 118 money, like everything that would give me like 1,500 quid or £1,000, I just maxed it and bought a load of courses and, you know, kind of learned different things. I learned the basics of like marketing and sales and stuff like that. And then I launched it. I dabbled at first. I remember the first time I did it, it was like, I did like a 12-week transformation and it was like 50 quid and I sold 10 of them. But to me, that was like 500 quid. And I was like, I've just made 500 quid, like, and I've not even done anything yet. Like, maybe it's got something. And then with the 500 quid, I bought a couple more courses. And then I found one that was really like more up my street with regards to like tactics and stuff. And then I launched my proper online coaching in, I think it was like February or March of 2019.
So you were buying online courses to learn how to become a marketer?
Yeah, so I was obviously, I've been a PT for years, so like I didn't really need any help with how to do training or diet plans. I've been doing that since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
But, you know, you don't get taught how to do sales. You don't, you know, unless you do it at university, but like in school, which is mad really, considering it's such like a fundamental aspect to life. Like you sell yourself every single day and like you're out and about. So like that was the big key I was missing. Like I didn't know how to market. I didn't know how to sell things. And when I put all that together, it started to work really well, and everything just kind of snowballed from there in what's just seemed like a very hectic 5 years after that.
So in your first year, you turned over a million, 1.5 million.
No, my first year, it was like 125,000.
Okay.
But to me, that was absolutely bonkers, considering like I'd always set the marker in my head that like if you make 100 grand a year, you're rich. It seems to get
bigger,
eaten very quickly with tax and stuff when you actually do it. But like that was like a big number in my head.
Now, do you have a goal for success? Do you have how do you define success?
That's always a really weird question, because when people like say to me like, oh, do you like, when, you know, when like you're on podcasts like this and it's like, oh, we're going to invite people who are successful. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, cheers. Because I think you can define it in like multiple different ways, can't you? You can have like financial success, like relationship success. Success, I think, is just you feeling accomplished and feeling like you've achieved what you meant to achieve, which probably means that I don't feel very successful because I have quite lofty goals. But I think that's the entrepreneurial curse, really, isn't it? Like as soon as you get somewhere, you're like, okay, what's the next thing? What's
next? Yeah, you know, that's really interesting that you said that, entrepreneurial curse. I really get that, because your goalposts keep changing. And when you achieve what you wanted to achieve last year, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, you get there, you're like, oh, doesn't really feel like I've accomplished something. So you're on to the next thing. And whilst it's good because it drives you to continue, it can actually be to your detriment because you never stop. You're actually stuck in this hamster wheel or this rat race, and you may not be racing with anyone else, but you're racing with yourself. And so when is enough? When is that? When do you get to a point where you're like, I'm going to take a step back now?
I think it depends on why you got into it though, doesn't it? Like if you get into it from a purely financial standpoint, then yeah. And you see where people drop off as well. You see the people that are really financially motivated because they get to a point and then they go, okay, I'm good here. I'm going to go live in a cabin in the woods. I'm sick of everyone else. Like, cool. And everyone flirts with that idea now and again. Like, I'm just going to go live on a beach without a phone and like, no one's going to talk to me. But like, I think if you're like truly entrepreneurially minded, that's a really big phrase from my mouth.
Yeah. There is no end.
I think what happens is like people who don't understand it misconstrue it as like greed or like not being happy. But I don't think that's the case. I think what happens is like, I have this really weird thing, and I've spoke about this on other podcasts with people, and I always find it really interesting when I speak to people that are successful about whether they kind of feel the same way. But I feel like there's almost like layers in life, and there's like ceilings that you can't really see through until you get to certain places. And I feel like once you get to a certain level, the journey of getting there allows you to meet people at like the levels above. And then you're like, oh, okay, well, this is another world that I wasn't really aware of, that people do this kind of stuff. And then I think you just try and expand into that. And I don't think it's like you're driven by a number or you're driven by any kind of particular outcome. I think just along your journey, you kind of see what's capable. And then you're like, oh shit, like someone else can do that. And if you back yourself enough, you're like, well, I reckon I could do that. Yeah. So then you just kind of push yourself into that process. It's
continuous personal development.
Yeah, I think so. I think, to be honest, like running a business, I think is the ultimate form of personal development. I've not met an ice bath yet that's tested me as much as running a business. But I think that's the overall goal. Like to me, I'm 33 in July. I was going to say next month, but I've got my numbers done. So
well done you. I didn't realize you were that young.
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to
tout
well
for some work now?
No. You look good. You don't need my help.
I'm only joking. But yeah, like I think, you know, I spent a lot of my early 20s basically like not pushing myself very hard and not knowing how to push myself, I guess.
So how do you do it now? What motivates you?
Nothing really. Yeah, it's just part of the process, isn't it? Like if the way I always look at it, it's like, I don't really want anything. Like I live a really good life. Like my family looked after, I've got a nice house, I've got nice cars. Like if it was really driven by like that kind of stuff, like I'm about as comfy as you're going to get. Like you can't really get a much, like once you've got a certain car, like it doesn't get that much better, does it really? But there's such a long journey ahead of like so many different things that you could do. And I think once you've got to a certain point, you see the amount of possibilities that are there. And I think there's just human nature, or maybe some people's nature, to just be like, well, I want to try and explore that, and I want to try and explore that. And always sounds weird because I always think people come across as, I'm trying not to swear, but like people come across a bit weird when like they say it's like a game, because I think it trivializes making money. And I'm aware that a lot of people, like, you know, a couple of extra £1,000 a month would probably change their lives and solve a lot of really serious issues. And yeah, I don't want it to come across like, oh, I'm just, you know, playing games with things that, you know, are life-changing things for people. But I think it does just become like a massive journey of self-development, to the point where like, maybe I've got a couple of years yet before it really starts to hit me, but I just don't see, until like I physically and mentally can't handle it, like the idea of retirement freaks me out. Like, what would I do? Like, there's only so much paddle you can play in a day before like you just get bored.
But you're in your prime now, right? So you're 33. You're not thinking like a 70-year-old who might be tired and has done it for a really long time.
Sure.
And their motivation, their life goals, and their perception of a closeness to not being around much longer is different to where you're at right now.
Yeah, and I've not got kids either, so like I feel like I'm almost playing with house money at this point. So where
enjoy. I'm telling you, once you get the kids.
But but it is a different scenario, isn't it? Like once you get children, then you start becoming maybe not risk averse, but you start being like, okay, well, I'll weigh up this choice versus what I could give to my kids. Like, is this going to take away from them? Blah, blah.
So what motivates you is not financial. What motivates you is, what I'm hearing is, what motivates you is reaching your full potential. Yeah,
I think so. And I think there was a large period in my 20s where I almost messed it up like really badly. So I think now I feel like I've started on this process. I kind of owe it to myself to see where it could get to.
So, I mean, this question of how do you define success is such a difficult question. And actually one I quite hate myself when people ask me that. And if people say, oh, you're successful, I think, really? Am I? How are you defining success?
Yeah, like whose measure are you?
Whose measure are we going by here? And I don't see it as hitting a specific financial level. So that's not how I define success. And I think the way that everyone defines success is different. But your business is centered around creating success for other people. And tell me a little bit about that.
So
how do you do that? How do you coach? And also, I'm going to add a part B to that question, is when you are coaching these people, I know that you will be able to identify, because you've also a teacher, who has the potential to succeed based on, there's a personality trait where you can see
for sure.
this person's going to do amazingly well. So what do you think it is? What is that? I don't know what you want to call it, magic sauce, special personality trait. What is it that you see in people that makes them successful?
So again, I think the caveat with that is like success for different people is defined in different ways. So I think first of all, it's like, and I used to do the same when you get kids, like it's identifying what success looks like for that person. So, and I think that like, if you measure it with like, because we run a business program, the numbers matter in a sense of like, especially at the level that we coach people with, because I mean, once you make a certain amount of money, like I said, like making more money doesn't really change a lot. But at the levels that we work with people, when they first start with us, like it does, like it's life changing. So we have to look at them as a person and be like, okay, what do we define as success for you compared to your starting point? Like, unfortunately, it's not, I wish there was a button that you could press and like everyone's like, oh yeah, we just run this thing and you make money, but it's obviously not the case. So I think it's looking at the person and being like, okay, what would success look like for you in 6 months, 12 months, 24 months? And then doing our very best to allow them to reach that potential. Like I'm very careful. Like, listen, we have some people in our program that are phenomenally talented. Like we work with clients all the way from people making £250 a month. We have clients making £250,000 a month. Like the swing is wild. But I think you've just got to look at the individual and be like, where do we think you can go, depending on the things that you've come in with? And then again, just try our best to make sure you reach that. Sometimes that ends up in a difficult conversation of what they see and what they think they can do versus the actions that they're currently taking. But we try very hard to like not own our client success. Because I think if you own your client success, you've got to also own all of your clients' failures. So I like to treat ourselves as almost like a conduit of like their own natural talent and try and bring out the best of them. Sometimes it's a bit difficult in the online business space to come across like that. Like it's a funny business. Like it's probably the only place in the world that like I've ever been judged on like someone else's process and success. Like in school, if a kid comes in and does no work, it's very easy to be like, they don't blame the teacher.
Yeah, that's true.
They sit down at parents' evening and be like, yo, your kid's done nothing for the past 3 months. Like they've done no homework, they've done none of this. Like the parents can't realistically sit there and be like, why has he not got an A? And you'd be like, I'll give you a list of reasons why he's not got an A. But it's on you and it's on them. I think in the business coaching space, the claims have got so inflated about what we can do for you. It's become quite like, the onus is on us like very heavily to like sometimes drag people kicking and screaming to places where they shouldn't really be.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a funny one. Like defining success for clients is always, everyone's different as well. Like we've had some clients come in that have all the potential in the world to do some phenomenal things and they just get to a certain point and they're like, no, I'm good. I'm happy here. And I can't compute that, but that's just because of the way my brain's wired. And I'm like, but you could do this. And they're like, yeah, but I don't care.
Yeah. Because what motivates people is different.
Yeah,
for sure. On that front, you haven't got to where you have got by yourself. You have a team around you. And you started as a one-man show. I started as a one-woman show. And now I have a large team around me. And on that journey of growth came a heck of a lot of pain on my front. Because not everyone, first of all, no one's going to look after your business the way that you will. Second of all, not everyone is motivated in the same way that you are. So I'm not financially motivated. I've never got up to work, not a day in my life, and said, I'm going to go to work to make this amount of money. I go to make my patients happy. And I think if you do a good job, money comes. Not everybody is like that. So you're speaking different languages. And then also professional integrity, work ethic. You can teach skill. You can teach someone how to, I don't know, carry dumbbells or whatever it is that you do. But you can't teach character. And so I think the hardest thing when it comes to running a business is not starting a business, but scaling a business. And the hardest thing about scaling a business is growing a team that is all rowing the boat in the same direction and that all share the same ethos as you. Does that resonate with you?
I think that is pretty much business, isn't it? I feel like the first bit of the journey that you talk about, like the one-man band stuff, like that's just skill acquisition for you, isn't it? Like learning how to do the job for the clients, learning how to market, learning how to sell, like everything's you. So that's really probably the simplest bit because the only person who really affects that is you. As then you, like you said, go to scale a business and other people become involved. It's a whole different skill set and it's a completely different animal because everything else becomes process and systems and you're focused on basically HR. Like you focus on getting people to do the jobs and that then probably throws up the biggest curveballs that you're not in control. Like if our lead cost goes up, I can look at all of the numbers in the data and be like, that's where the problem is. Let's go fix that. And it's very mechanical. People inherently are not mechanical. Which then is a completely different skill set. And it's the one that, like I said, throws the most curveballs. It causes the most pain. It takes the longest time to set up and then potentially recover from. But
people, not systems.
Yeah, people, like the actual people running the systems themselves.
So how do you, I'm sure you've hired I don't want to say the wrong people because I don't actually believe that. I don't believe that I think that when we hire, and I've done this before where I've hired people that are best suited in other places. They're not the wrong people, but they're not the right fit in my business. And so I've got to I've got to be responsible for that. I've always struggled with actually saying to someone who I've identified isn't rowing the boat in the same direction or doesn't understand the mission or doesn't have the same work ethic or professional integrity or whatever it may be. I've always struggled up until now to say, I think you're best suited elsewhere. It's a really difficult conversation to have because as an employer, you also feel responsible for their livelihood. However, sometimes at your detriment. And now I have realized, and one day I will probably write a book about the number of stories that I've gone through, is hire slow, fire fast. Actually, when you have someone in your business that is rowing the boat in the opposite direction, the fallout and the difficulty and the pain that can bring is massive, massive. And I know you and I were talking about that before. Give me an example of something that you've been through that has been painful.
I mean, I've hired and fired a lot of people. I think I always try and pull the mistakes back onto myself, because I think as a business owner, that's probably the right thing to do. Biggest mistakes I've made are, sometimes you don't always have the beauty of hiring slow.
I know.
Sometimes you've got to do it quickly.
So fast
you've got to roll a dice. I think mistakes I've made previously is hiring people that I knew could do a job now, but maybe couldn't do a job further down the line. Like quick fix people, like, oh, they can sort of do that, so that would be great. Like, and I think you've just got to go through it as you grow. Like, I think it probably is the right thing to do. I think what I did is so when you first start growing a business, I feel like your best employees when you're small are almost like Swiss Army knives.
Yeah.
Like, they can do multiple things all right.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what you need. You don't have enough money to be like, right, I need a specialist in this, I need a specialist in this. You just have a list of all this shit that you don't have time to do and don't want to do. And you're like, I need somebody that can do all of that. Yeah. What's the cheapest, most efficient way of me getting someone else that can do all of that? And it's almost like a Swiss Army knife type character that isn't brilliant at anything, but kind of a steady Eddie that can just get the job done in all of those areas. And that's cool. The martyrdom then comes into the problem when you start to grow and you outgrow that person. You almost feel like they've helped so much that you're like, oh, I owe them to take them with me. I want to keep them, I want to put them in this position. And they're just not capably equipped to do it. And then a couple of things happen. Either you resent them or they know they're out of their depth, and then they start to resent you because they can't handle the stuff that you're trying to give them. And there's a level of frustration there because you're like, why is this not being done? And they're just not capable. So I think if I was ever to scale another business, like from ground zero, I wouldn't need, the thing is, like, are you only ever going to do it once? Because like, now I wouldn't.
You don't know, right?
But now I wouldn't need to because I've got cash flow from elsewhere. Yeah. So now I would just go, right, I need this person that can do this job at this level.
Hindsight is a great thing. So and we've all made mistakes. Let's not sugarcoat. And the hardest thing about running any business is stuff, and I think any business will tell you that. Any business owner will tell you that. So let's keep it real about that. And on that basis, if you could go back and do something differently, what would you do?
Fire people a lot quicker. A lot quicker. Like as soon as
you notice.
But it's hard because you only notice in hindsight, and now you go back and you be like, oh, when all of those things were happening, that's when I should have done it. And I think I feel like you can give the advice to someone, but like I've tried to give the advice to people that are literally just, I see it and I'm like, you're doing this is like, don't do this. It's going to bite you in the ass. And you get the same thing every time. It's like, no, but they're my friend. Like it's this. And you're just like, all right, see how it goes. Yeah. And it always ends up the same way. Yeah. Like, I feel like it's been kind of like, since I've gone through that process in my business, I feel like every business owner I've spoken to has been like, yeah, I've done that. Yeah, I've had that. Yeah. And I feel like it's just a rite of passage that you've got to go through, like, as you grow a business.
Really good way of putting it.
Have you ever met someone that like you've said that to and they've gone, oh no, I just sacked everyone like right away and like hired the right. It just doesn't happen. No. I just think it's part of like taking your training wheels off as a business owner. I think you just got to.
Because there's no manual, especially if you didn't start a business to start a business. And what I mean by that is, and I think that you're the same. I didn't start my business with a business plan where I was like, okay, I'm going to start my business is going to be like this. I just started by myself, doing a good job for my patients, and it grew from there. And so I had no business hat on. There was no manual for running or growing, or I had no idea. I was learning on the job. I knew everything about my art. I knew everything about the science. I knew about patient care. I knew about facial transformations. I knew about skin. I knew the science and the arts and all that, the people management. But how to run a business, clueless. And that was that. So there were real growing pains there.
I feel like that does make the best business owners though, to be honest with you, because like...
I'm glad to hear that.
I just think like coming from like similar position to you where like I was the service provider, like almost you start as like a freelancer kind of thing and it grows into a business. You understand the products and the people that you're serving better than anyone else. And like, that's probably the thing that's like helped our company grow so quickly, is that like, I was the exact person and I spent a lot of time hands-on with the exact people that we serve. So every time somebody comes to me with a strategy, I can see it through the lens of the customer and be like, that'll work, that won't work. Like, I can make those judgment calls. I feel like there's so much to learn in business that if you're coming from the business background, it's almost like you have a bunch of useless information that like 90% of what you know is going to be irrelevant. Whereas when you go from the service provider standpoint, you only really learn the things that you need to know, which sometimes obviously blindsides you because you get hit by something that you didn't really foresee. But I do still think like it gives you a much more streamlined, like the stuff about business that I don't have a clue about. Like if I spoke to somebody that did a business degree, they'd probably boggle me with a lot of the words. They'd be like IPO, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, what do all these acronyms mean? I don't have a clue. But if you put me in a service-based business and be like, right, we need coaches, we need salespeople, we need like leads, we need all, I know exactly what I'm doing because my attention is so focused on the things that I need. And I think that it's got to be a benefit, I think, like understanding the customers to that level. So you get, there's pros and cons of it, isn't there?
Absolutely. So I wanted to ask you, with the industry that you're in and the industry that I'm in, which is health and wellness as well, we have a lot of patients who come and see us who are struggling to get into the gym. And so they're using some of our devices as that stepping stone to get in, that kind of, that boost. And then when I'm going to my PT and I'm telling her about these things, or she's seeing me suddenly get really strong, I remember she was really almost offended about the fact that I had M-Sculpt, for example. Yeah. And you said, and you identified when you and I had this chat, that actually these things work together. What's your view on that?
I don't know a lot about the science behind the devices and stuff like that, so I'll try and stick to my own lane. But I think there's a lot of things to be said for like confidence and understanding, like that when people try and lose weight, I think there's two camps, isn't there? There's the people that turn to the advices because they just can't be bothered to actually do the work. But there's a lot of people I think turn to like certain like aesthetics and medical interventions because they see it as an easy stepping stone to start to build momentum. And I think a lot of people in any walk of life, in health, in fitness, in business, generating that initial bit of momentum and seeing that initial part of success actually kind of gives them the belief that like, oh, I can do this. This is doable for me. I think a lot of people sit most of their lives believing that they can't do things rather than believing that they can. So I think like these kind of things, like even if they didn't work on a medical sense and they just gave someone this like placebo effect that it would allow them to move forward, it can only really be a good thing. I think a lot of people just argue with it because in any industry, there's always good and bad. So I'm sure in the medical industry, there's things that work really, really well and are all scientifically backed. There's other things that people sell on TikTok that are probably quite dangerous. And people see the things that probably are harmful because it's such an easy industry with like people with such like low emotional states to take advantage of them from a purchasing standpoint, that they look at the bad things and they tar the whole industry with that, in the same way that I think there's personal trainers that do a very bad job. And then the whole idea of the personal training industry is that, they don't care. They just want to play on the phones while they're training people in the gym. So I think it's a lack of understanding, to be honest with you. And this like whole idea where they just, throw the baby out with the bathwater type of scenario. So I think maybe more education around
in it. Because actually what I found is that when patients come in and seek these treatments, like the body sculpting and the muscle building, it's not that they can't be bothered, it's that they don't have self-belief and they don't have the strength and they feel embarrassed to go to the gym because they don't think they can handle it. So it is a precursor and an adjunct, and that's how I took it for myself, was that boost to get into the gym. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to leave it on one last question. And my one last question in one word, or in 2 words, one sentence, is tell me what you would say to your younger self.
In 2 words?
You can do one sentence.
Fail faster.
Oh, wow. Did not expect that.
I quite like that one.
Fail faster. Why?
Try more, take more risks. You'll figure it out quicker of where you want to go.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for joining me.
No problem.
Thank you.